Okay, so today we're going to be building a baseball field cribbage board. So what I'm doing here is just measuring out some vinyl that I'm going to put through the Cricut, and I'm making a template because I'm I'm drilling the holes for the cribbage board by hand. So a template is really kind of necessary because the layout for drilling all those holes, because there's over 200 holes, would be a total pain in the butt. So I'm making a template using vinyl on the Cricut. And here I'm just cleaning up my garage because it was a disaster. So I had some time while that printed out. There you go, it's all done. So I'm gonna just cut off the excess vinyl so I don't waste it. And now I'm going to put it back onto the mat and pull off all the excess vinyl. Now this is kind of a mistake that I made. You'll notice that, I'm leaving all the dots for the holes, where the holes are going to be. So the vinyl dots I left. And I did that to save time because I was like, pulling all those dots is going to take forever. But it ends up being a mistake. And I'll talk about that later. So here's just 2 scrap pieces of walnut cutoffs that I'm going to use for this, and these are going to be for the dirt part of the infield. And I'm just jointing them, but I recognize that they're too wide for my jointer to do the face, so just go to the table saw real quick to get them to a manageable width, and then back to jointing. And I had to do quite a few passes for one of them in particular because it was particularly wonky. So now I've got 2 nice face and a nice edge, so I'm putting them through the planer now to get them to final dimensions. I don't remember, I kind of just ad-libbed the dimensions for this because I didn't really care, because I just knew that I was going to be inlaying each panel into each other. So everything was based off of the thickness for when I set my router bit. So it didn't really matter how thick anything was as long as I knew to set my router bit accordingly. So here I'm just gluing up the panels, give her a little clampety clamp. And those are 4-foot clamps, but they're just perfect for making panels. And now I'm adding cauls just to keep it flat while it glues up, while it sets. And then now I'm making the outfield and the grass part of the infield using maple. And I'll just go through the whole same process here. And now I'm taking out the panel for the dirt part of the infield. And I'm going to end up now, very shortly here. So one panel out and one panel in. So now I'm gluing up the outfield part of the cribbage board. Same process, clampity clamp clamp, color a day. And culls again, just to keep her flat. And now I'm gluing up the grass part of the infield. So that was one board, but in order to joint it and plane it, I kept it at length and then I just cut it in half to the dimensions that I needed for the infield. And this is where it all kind of goes wrong. I'm trying to transfer it onto transfer tape and I'll explain what happened. So the last part of the video there was me trying to transfer the template onto the transfer tape, and it didn't work because it's way too dusty in my garage. My hands were dirty. It was a total disaster. And not only that, getting every single dot, because you noticed that before I had the dots on there, that was the wrong way to go. I was just trying to save myself some time, but it ended up costing me time. So anyway, I've got this is going to be like for the base paths and everything. And then this one, I just put the template on so that I could get the lines. Now I'm going to cut it out on the bandsaw. And that's going to be the infield, and I'll inlay the infield into that. Cool. All right. And now I'm just cutting everything out on the bandsaw. So I start with the grass part of the infield, cutting those corners out for around the bases. Just taking it nice and slow because I didn't want to screw up at this point. There we go. And now I'm going to just, with the drum sander here, just smooth off the edges, make the curves nice and smooth. And now I'm cutting out the dirt part of the infield. You can see the rounded part behind home plate there, simulating like the batter's box or the batter's area. There we go. So that's done. And again, just smoothing out all the edges. Get rid of the bandsaw blade marks and smooth out the edges around the back of this by the home plate there. Nice and smooth, silky smooth. And now drill Mageddon. So this took the longest of anything really, was drilling all those holes, and I'm so glad that I figured out the template thing for that, because it would have been terrible to lay out by hand. And there was a couple holes that went a little wonky on me because the drill bit is so small, and there was a couple little chunks of the walnut there that were a little bit more dense than some of the others, perhaps, and so the bit kind of went sideways on me. So a couple of the holes coming down the third base side are a little bit off, and there I was just taking off all the vinyl, and now I am just tracing my dirt infield onto the outfield part. And then you can see that little center bit there, that's going to be the mound, and that was actually just left over from the bullet that I turned, and it worked perfect. It was the perfect size. And now I am routing out a lot of the material here for the inlay. So I'm going to insert the walnut portion into this. And now I'm just tidying up all the edges with the chisel so that it fits nicely. And there you go. So it's pretty good. Now I'm doing the inlay to receive the grass part of the infield. So I'm doing that up. So what I did there is basically the walnut section sticks up a 1/16 proud of the outfield section, and then the grass infield section sticks up a 1/16 from the walnut section. So there's a little bit of a three-dimensional effect. And now I am drilling the remaining holes. So I had to do one block on the grass infield and one block on the walnut dirt part of the infield. And now I'm just gluing in the bases, and my camera died for when I made the bases, but it was pretty simple. It was just using the bandsaw again. And for the bases, I just used scrap pieces of pine. And the reason I did that is because I wanted it to be as white as possible, and that's the whitest wood I had. They all fit in there pretty nicely, except for the one I'm working on right now. I had to give it a little bit of a love tap, but it went in. Now I'm mixing my dye. So my dye here is the Kita wood dye. I got it on Amazon. So you got to mix, obviously, blue and yellow to make green. And like that looks really orange, but believe you me, it's very yellow when you put it into the water alcohol mixture. And then here I am putting on the first coat. I ended up having to do 5 coats total. And I had to experiment with the color a little bit because the first couple coats dried pretty blue. So I had to add more yellow. And then one thing I found was the yellow kind of separated from the overall green color a little bit. And I talk about that at the end of the video. There. So that was coat number 1. So after all 5 coats, now I'm just branding the back with my logo. There she be. And I've already glued it all up. And there it is. All right, baseball cribbage board complete. Hopefully you liked the video. It was a fun little project to do. About rules. So this is just a normal crib board. So you start off on the mound, you make your way towards home, almost as if a pitch is coming in, and then you hit the ball and you round the bases. First one to home wins. Same concept, just a different playing field. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like, subscribe, share, and comment, and we'll see you on the next one. Shabam!